So this is, I think, a very good segue because since we've been talking about data distribution, I've asked Andrew Hendrickson to come and speak to us just for a few minutes about the ArcGIS Online for Organizations situation that I've explained to you earlier, and I've also explained this to Andrew. He's one of our solutions architects here at Esri, and he's also one of the people working with our core development staff to lead the vision and strategy for ArcGIS Online, which includes ArcGIS Online for Organizations. He's a proud graduate of Rutgers University as well. So it's especially a pleasure to have him come up and just give us a few minutes of wisdom on this issue. So.
Okay. Can you guys hear me? Am I on? Yeah? Thanks, Dawn.
Great, thanks, Andrew.
So she said ArcGIS Online situation, didn't she? Did you say situation? That's an interesting way to...
I'm so tired, I can't remember what I said.
To tee this up, I think you said situation.
Yeah,
okay. And
the issue.
Now, Dawn did ask me to come in about a few hours ago, but I just got the message, so I don't necessarily have a preempted presentation for you, but I'm going to walk through a couple concepts, and I do have to say that I am a proud Rutgers guy. I have deep roots in the ocean. My first job was digitizing bathymetry in the Bay, and that guy right there hired me. So if you could raise your hand, Rick. So,
hey.
Yeah, it was really exciting sitting there for hours pressing the puck, right? And I'll never forget the first day that I walked in to the position, and quite literally, I was presented with back then it was a Solaris, workstation and a prompt that said ARC, and that was it. And it was kind of like, well, giddy up, Andy, figure out how to make this work. And here I am today talking to a bunch of folks who are interested in similar things to me about something that's completely similar. In a way, I'm talking about sort of, data dissemination and the ability to actually share your work with other people. So we've built some technology that I think I'm going to kind of skip around a little bit in this presentation. We've built some technology that I think we overlook a little bit that is part of ArcGIS Online. And it's really relevant for you folks to understand what it is. And you've seen some architecture slides that look like this, probably, throughout courses of looking at some of Esri's presentations and even some of our online material. And I want to just sort of dig in on this a little bit and talk about the fact that, you see all of these devices and things connected into a cloud in this diagram. And that is important. It's not just that we try to put clouds in all of our presentations, even though they do seem to be in all of our current presentations. But that's because it's an important part of the implementation of the underlying technology that we've built. And up here, I've got this sort of concept of a catalog, with users and groups, and then this thing, a web map there that's in the middle. And that's what I want to decompose for a couple minutes because, a web map is a new thing that we've sort of defined a specification for. Now, some of you may think of it as a mashup environment. It's a place where you can take a bunch of services, right, and overlay them and hit save, and then all of a sudden you have a web-accessible map, of which you may have your ocean-based map, there as part of it. And you're able to take your local data sets, whether they be sourced from a shapefile or a raster data set or wherever the stuff is coming from, and you can mash them together, right? And so quickly, hit save and publish that thing back out. But that's only part of the story, at least the way I think of it, because we've been making maps for a long time. We've been pressing PDFs for folks. We've been, making JPEGs, embedding these things in websites. What we never had was the ability to sort of model your organization, right? And we do this with this technology, with this portal technology, with the concept of users and groups, right? Now, those of us that did start on Unix workstations, I know what a group is, right? Gmod 777? No, that's not what I'm talking about. This is a little bit above the stack, right? But you can model how your agencies or how your universities or how your organizations actually look with the concept of vertical groups, right? So perhaps marine science as a group, perhaps ecology as a group, perhaps sociology as a group, perhaps human ecology as a group. But then you can have groups that cross-cut those portions as well. Groups can own things. They can own items. So in this portal technology, we created the concept of an item, okay? So I want to pull away all that other stuff, that noise, and talk about the portal for a couple minutes. By registering your existing work, by changing really nothing about the way you've implemented today, just the way you share your applications and your data, these items become web accessible by other folks that are either a member of a group or not. I think this is super exciting, right? So for the first time, you can have live data sets. Live is a sort of a relative term, right? But it could be a live service with data pumping in and out of a database, or it could be a service that's based on a static shapefile that's now registered as part of a portal, that's part of a group, that's accessible by the users that are a member of that organization. This is brand new technology, okay? So the way I describe it is, in some cases we've backfilled existing roles, like we create new technologies which actually kind of backfill an existing thing. So we sort of fire the one person and bring the new one in, or thing. This is new. This was a new position we created. So this, don't be confused by it because it is brand new. It is literally a front end to your geospatial assets. And they work with both things that occur on premise, on your existing infrastructure, or there's something new. There's hosted services that exist. And you guys, some of you have obviously been using them. I saw in the very brief couple minutes at the end there, some of your, enhancement requests, right, that you brought up for the technology. But this is exciting because we have simple features that are now available for you to load a simple feature, into a hosted service, and you don't need any infrastructure or servers. We take care of that, right? We take care of it on the Esri cloud. So this is pretty exciting. There isn't a 1,000 feature limit, by the way. I have to say that. There's a 1,000 feature setting. You need to change the setting and you can load more than 1,000 features, okay? Now let's remember, features aren't always appropriate to deliver to a client, right? If you're delivering a lot of them. So sometimes things can be slow if you're trying to dump a pile of geometries or objects, right, to that client. That's why we make that 1,000 limit a default setting so you don't hurt yourselves or your customers, your stakeholders. But there's another type of service that we've made available here as a hosted service, which is a cache service or a tile service. So through the combination of tiled or cached data and services and feature services, when it's scale appropriate, you just flip the switch, right? So at small scales, I would recommend tile services. They draw really quickly, right? They come in, boom. And then at your larger scales, your features can come and they become queryable. So there's a little best practice, regarding that. But those are now available as a hosted service. You don't even need a server. And there's other ones too. We don't have all day, but there's other services that we're building and there's other ones that are available today. So you can power a portal with services today with simple features or tiles without investing in any server technology. I think this is fairly exciting, having been doing this for so many years, right? To be able to do this without having to actually invest in hardware or capitalizable things. These are consumables, right? So you just pay for what you use. You're not having to do CapEx kind of investments that you have to depreciate over time. But anyway, that doesn't mean that it doesn't work with your existing enterprise software as well, right? So as I mentioned, over here in this sort of hosted world or ArcGIS Online Services, it's simple features only, feature services. But if you have stuff that's, hardened schema level stuff going on, or geodatabase, complex features with topologies and things like that, you still need a GIS server to exist, an application server to exist, right? And those services also work in the portal, and they're also registerable in the portal. So this is another sort of area of misconception that I've seen with a lot of our customers, that they think they have to move everything into the cloud to use ArcGIS Online, and that is just not true. You can use your existing servers and services, right? And there's a whole cadre of service types that are available and supported, and we can send you those links if you're interested. But it's important for you to understand that your existing investments work with this portal technology as well, okay? So this, to me, again, I'm accused oftentimes of saying things multiple times that excite me. But, typically we got really jazzed around campus about building geospatial functionality and new functions or, new imagery analysis and things like that. But over the past year and a half, we've been getting pretty jazzed about building this technology that allows you to share that tradecraft, right? things like geoprocessing packages, geoprocessing services, just simply references to your existing data sets. As soon as you register them within your portal, they're searchable via that catalog, which, by the way, is RESTful. For those of you that care, I also heard that you mentioned that you liked REST, right? I do too, for a couple reasons. I think the most important thing about REST, though, is that it's self-documenting. This is really cool. So you can actually read a REST API and see what it's doing, right? That's what I mean by self-documenting. So I challenge you to kind of go out and have a look. It's wide open in the open space, arcgis.com/API-docs/REST. It's verbose. Our entire REST API for this portal is public, right? So maybe you're not going to look at it, but if you have technical people that work for you, they should go read this, right? Because you'll immediately be able to see how you can share your information. So, and additionally, this stuff can be private, right? So as an educational institution or a commercial institution, these portals are available to you in arcgis.com, ArcGIS Online today, right? So they're credentialed. If you choose things to be private, they don't have to be visible to the rest of the world. So I'll round off this portion of the talk by saying that for the first time, in my career of doing GIS work and scientific work and research and analysis, over the past year, I've seen geographic data become available to the public faster than I've ever seen it before. We're talking hours to get stuff out now, not weeks, not days, not months. And this has been demonstrated with what we saw last week on the East Coast, my home state. This has been demonstrated in support of things like the RNC and the DNC, right? And just general events overall. So I don't have lots of challenges for you today, other than that I know that you guys have lots of data, right? You have lots of results of data sets and analysis that you do that the public would really love to get to, right? Or, other folks within your own organization would love to get to, okay? And I think that if you could create, then populate that portal for your organization, I think this is a really good thing. So this is also quite ironic, and I wanted to wrap up by saying that originally, for me to do this, running around in our lab, we used to run back and forth with giant reels of tape to share data, right? Do you guys remember those days? Or then we went to the small reels of tape. It's gone. Aren't you happy? I'm happy. I think this fundamentally changes the way that we can get the information out of these stovepipes and into cross-cutting groups, right? So I'm happy to take a bunch of questions, or no questions, or any questions. Dawn, if you want to prompt me on anything, that's fine.
Could you talk a little bit about the ArcGIS Online for Organizations subscription model?
Sure. With the introduction of this sort of cloud-based system, we are also happy to introduce this sort of consumable model, which is you pay for what you use, right? Now, this is pretty difficult for a lot of folks to wrap their brains around when you're used to having hardened CapEx kind of budgets where you need to know exactly what you need to spend. Because in this case, when you use the hosted system and you're not using servers, you're burning what we call service credits. So service credits are the sort of currency we've had to come up with because we offer so many different types of services. And we are not an ad revenue-based, organization. So you literally pay for what you use. So for example, storing files on the system is 1.2 credits per gigabyte per month, right? 1 credit is 10 cents. Storing features in a feature service is 2.4 credits per 10 megabytes, right? So that's 2.4 cents. The other things that experience credit burn are geocoding. You can use our geocoder, right? Or if you have local locators that you've built, you'll be able to add your locator into the portal as well, so your users can select your own locators and not use ours. That's pretty important because in a lot of states, they've invested a lot of time and money in building local locators. Does that make sense? Yes. Right. So you can wire those locators up to the portal instance without having to use it. Generating tiles costs 1 credit, right, per tile. Right. So you need. It's pretty easy to figure out. You can pretty easily create a linear equation to figure out what it would cost to burn tiles for your entire state or region. I would say don't burn the tiles for the whole region to test how many credits it's going to take. I've been parachuted into a few jobs where folks are a little bit upset because they've genuinely been testing. And they ran out of service credits. We do introduce dialogues that warn you, and for some reason they just click through them and say, there was no dialogue. Well, no, we warn you that you're going to use credits. So that is an interesting model for us, right? So we can have an adjustable rate, right, on that service credit depending upon what you're going to do with the system. We are introducing spatial analysis in the near coming months. So your classic 8 geoprocessing tasks will be available in the hosted system, like buffer, clip, intersect, things like that. Those are coming into the system. The ability to federate with GeoPortal Toolkit for doing FGDC metadata is coming as well. So not only can you have an item that's tied to actual real metadata, you have the metadata along with the item type here in the portal, but you can let your users federate that search amongst the two. Okay, so somebody mentioned metadata earlier, that's coming as well. Right? The credit model at first is a little freaky. I have to admit, it's new. It's new. If you have tremendous concerns around the credit model, right, or a consumption model, we're totally willing to sit down and figure out what it would take to be successful for you. Right, so that's my little plug there in the end. We're actually looking to work with folks to see what credit burn looks like.
I think that may be why I used the word situation, because I was thinking in the back of my mind, I was thinking about the credit model. So, Andrew, thank you so much. I think this lends a great deal of clarity to ArcGIS Online, and we have looks like we have a couple of questions.
Sure.
So, Pat,
are there credit costs associated with usage? Sort of on the client side, you spoke to the cost associated with putting your data into the service, but as far as accessing and the volume of data transfer on the client side, does that cost the publisher?
Yeah, it's a great question. So basically what you're asking is, all the data that's transferred out of our system that hits a client, yes, it's 1 credit per 6 gigabytes. So that would be anonymous use profiles of your maps, right? You put a map out on a public website, all of a sudden the thing goes viral, right? That's what you're worried about. And so are we, quite honestly, for a lot of our customers. It's really crazy for me to say 1 credit for 6 gigs is cheap, because cheap is relative, right? I can talk about some real world examples really quickly. There's been a couple web maps that have been launched that have severely doubled the traffic on our website. One was this Queen's Jubilee map that happens in the UK, and I'm not sure what the Queen, it's her birthday, or they're drinking all over the city, I know that. But they launched this map that had all the locations in London, and it doubled the amount of traffic coming into our system in one day, and then it went away. And the total burn rate for the day was under $40 for millions of concurrent hits. I mean, millions. Something that you would see, on just massive consumption. So I know that it's hard to relate to what that means. But when that happened, I was kind of glad, because I'm like, okay, now I can see, from a real world scenario, not just me loading up a web test, what it looked like. And that's really cheap. Right? So I'm happy saying that. So yes. In the back.
Ken? So, okay, so we'll take
we got
Emilio.
a couple.
Yeah, we've got Emilio, Tanya, and Ken. So, Emilio, go ahead.
Just wondering if...
Where are you?
Sorry.
He's over there.
Okay.
He's over there.
If there
I can hear you.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Is there or will there be an OGC web services built on top of the ArcGIS Online portal, such that, for example, if you as an organization load my 20 data sets, I could get as an extra a catalog service, OGC catalog service, as well as WMS and WFS?
Today, to support the OGC map services, you need a GIS server. So the portal supports WMS today. And another, believe it or not, KML, is an OGC standard too. It supports that too, and all the different flavors of malformed KML. That's been one of the most challenging pieces of software we've ever had to write as our KML interpreter. But yes, and then we're working on WMTS as well, and then in the future, supporting the coupling between a WMS and also with WFS. Now, what I didn't say is that the hosted services would deploy those. I'm saying these still require a server in the mix, okay, just to be clear. Yeah, we're investigating adding that into the hosted system, but that's pretty long range out. You'll need a server still to do that, right? Dynamic map services are our big focus right now in the hosted system.
Tanya, go ahead.
Yeah,
Tanya's
so
over there.
I know you mentioned some future connectivity to the GeoPortal server project, but aside from that, because the platform allows for institutional profiles and groups within institutions and across institutional collaborations, is there any thought that inherent profile management could generate metadata for people who are publishing their data through your platform, so that they could inherit, from their institutional profile, the attributes of their institution, the attributes of their project, the attribution of their project, so that then they, the metadata builds itself for their service?
I mean, it's an interesting, request. I can't say that is something on our immediate roadmap. We've built things in the past like metadata server and things like that where we tried, to do sort of automatic generation of compliant metadata like that. And I don't know that they were the most successful projects, but I'd be interested in learning more about what you mean by profile.
Well, yeah, if this is an easy platform for users to push data out for sharing, yeah. And metadata has always been a problem for people, or a barrier in the past, it seems like there are attributes of the system that could allow for sort of automatic generation of metadata that would take that barrier away.
Yeah.
Ken, in the center here.
Yeah, so one of the points that was brought up during this last group was that the limit of the features that could be added onto ArcGIS.com, mm-hmm. and then you said that there is really no limit, but I'm going through the help here, and there's really no indication of how to set that limit, so you might want to...
It's in the desktop.
Okay.
There's a blog post about the whole thing. I'd be happy to send you the link.
Okay, you might want to actually put that into the help system of ArcGIS.com, because it's... Obviously,
yeah,
it's not an easy thing to find.
Yeah, I did review it, and I'll take a second look to see if it's there. It should be around. Yeah, we spent some time on that one. Help is always a challenge, right? I firmly believe this is the best help I've seen with software yet. So when you see things like that, there's actually an alias, send a note in. We're fixing it in real time. So we don't have to wait for software releases anymore like we used to. How dare I ask you to do that? Is there another question?
Other questions? Well, again, Andrew, thank you so much. I
Sure.
really appreciate you coming.
Please populate it. Please populate your portals, please.
Thanks very much.
Thanks.